Welcome to Positive Living with Lolo. I'm Lolo, and today I have with me one of my best friends. Her name is Meg.
Hi.
Meg is here today because she has a blog coming out.
Yeah.
It is Mama
Meg's
Meg's Memos, and that's mindful motherhood.
Yeah.
And so I want to talk a little bit about like your education and your credentials and what basically kind of like got you here. And I also want you to talk about the dream before Emmy.
Okay.
So let's start off with one. How are you doing?
I'm really good. I'm babyless right now, which is weird, but it's good. So
Yeah.
I haven't spent a lot of time away from her since she's been born, but it's definitely good to get out of the house, and it's self-care, so we'll talk about later, and you have to implement it in your parenting. Otherwise, it gets too hard.
How old is Emmy now? Like
She's 2 months today, actually.
That's
So it's the
crazy.
23rd. She was born September 23rd. She's 2
So
months.
crazy.
Yeah. It's
It's
going
like-
so fast. I know. I'm just like, ah. Yes.
It is so crazy. So let's talk about some of your credentials. Like
Yeah.
you went to school at OU.
Yeah, so I went to Ohio University. I graduated there in 2015. Basically, I was an organizational and communication studies major. It's a mouthful for basically communication. And within organizations and just people in general, and studying like how to do that in more effective ways to make more and better things happen. At least that's the way I took it. You take it away whichever way you want to, you know. We actually had to have a minor to kind of add what we were going to do with that communication study. So in which ways you want to study communication, like politically, interrelationally, or like how you wanted to do it. And I ended up picking a sociology major to kind of study in general like society, but then with that I did diversity studies and women, gender, and sexuality studies. So I did those for a few reasons, but I pretty much came out with it learning more than I thought going in, which was just that you can implement, you know, diversity in families. And to me, family's always been so important in my life that first I'm like, wow, it'd be cool just to take my education, have fun with it, and then just have a family, but I don't know how to connect the two. And I think lately I've definitely been learning how to connect the two with having my first child. So after college, I got a job with the YWCA of Greater Cincinnati. Amazing organization. Their mission is to help women and just make sure, and pretty much all people, but to have better, more open ideas to dealing with certain issues. So my exact position was prevention education, you know, and with that, it wasn't just sex ed, it was learning about healthy relationships, and teenagers and kids need that because sometimes they're not talking about it at home. So I did that for 3 years, and then actually, yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What is the like? Do you know like a percentage?
The puppies. Zoltan is making a guest on here.
Zoltan, come here. Come here.
Everyone wants to meet me, so they know who they're hearing.
This is Zoltan,
He's
and he's crazy.
Yeah.
So, do you have a percentage on family or like families that don't speak to their kids about sexual education?
Actually, so I don't know an exact percentage for that, but just out of observation and experience, I would say at least like 1 in 3 kids aren't talking to their parents about it. It's probably higher than that, but I would just assume based off of the classrooms, and I was in 12 school districts with 5 different grade levels, and just a lot of the time, and it could be that the kids are uncomfortable, but it's also the parents. And, you know, my child is only 2 months, so I don't have to have those conversations yet. So I could be wrong, but I do have a lot more confidence now going into those conversations. Like, I don't think I'm going to have an issue with it, whereas a lot of these kids, I was the first person they were talking about, and they'd known me for 2 days at their school, so it was so weird. So I'm like, oh my gosh, you don't even know me, but you'll tell me all these issues you're having, and questions you have is more so what it is. It's not just issues they're having already.
Mm-hmm.
They just have questions. They're young kids, and they're like, what is all this? What does this mean? What happens if a boy or a girl says this to me? And they don't want to talk to their parents. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I think technology is definitely one, because they're so used to talking to just friends and expressing emotions and feelings and relationships over text. So the last thing they want to do is look at their mom in the face and say it. But yeah, I would say a lot of kids aren't talking to their parents about it. And more so, it's not like the kids aren't, the parents aren't making those conversations happen. And sad and scary. So you
Yeah.
definitely need to start doing that.
At what age do you think is a good age to start talking to your kids about sex?
I go back and forth. A lot of people are now saying like really, really young. I mean, like at least starting to. I think that as soon as your child shows any expression of anything, whether it's about their body or just having questions about even sexuality, I think it should just be addressed and talked about, even if it has to be tailored down to a 4 or 5 year old's level. The worst thing you can do is just shun it away and be like, we don't talk about that. Or, oh, well, you don't have that, or you can't have that, so we're just not talking about it. Because that's where a lot of negative and fearful feelings come from when they start talking about those things, because their parents have yelled at them about it since they were little. And you don't want, well, in a society that has a bunch of people filled like that, but you don't want your own child to have to go through that. They should be able to talk about their bodies, and because then they think it's healthy and normal to have these discussions, which are so important when they start relationships.
Right.
To be able to have these conversations. So
Right.
I think definitely that's part of what hopefully I'll be talking about more, because I think it's so important.
Yeah. Okay. So, talk about after that.
Oh
After
yeah, so
schools.
basically, yeah, I went to I was doing prevention education for like actually it was 2 years, because then I was with the wife for one more additional year, so 3 years total. And the last year was spent in a women's shelter. So it was an intimate partner violence shelter. So basically you had to have a high risk situation going on, meaning you were at risk for death, and it was mostly women that came to our shelter, although it was open to men as well. And yeah, so these women would call the hotline. You'd have staff on the hotline. I did hotline work, but I also did family intervention coordination, which is basically case management. So the families would come in, and I would help them try to find a job, food, resources. If they couldn't bring a birth certificate or social security card with them because they were fleeing a situation, we would talk about how to get those things, how to do that, where to get the funds to do that, trying to get them involved in sometimes, drug addiction counseling, or just regular therapy to talk about things that have happened. You just were in charge of coordinating all of that. And most of the time, even if their kids weren't with them, these women either had children or just had families in general that they were involving in all of this. So I think then I started to really get more concerned as to like why some of these women not necessarily ended up in those situations, because I believe those situations were happening to them, obviously, like they weren't at fault, but I started to question their self-care, even how it was affecting their parenting. You'd see these really, really stressed out women, and then they take it out on their kids. And it's really sad, but that's happening a lot in the shelters. So I went from seeing it kind of from these kids' perspective of just different things going on at the schools to then going to the shelter. And I wasn't a mom or expecting to be a mom anytime soon, but it just so happens that I ended up finding out I was pregnant a month after I left that position. So it got really stressful. It was mentally too much for me. I was bringing too much home with some of those stories and some of the things these women were coming in with. It just got, and I was in their apartments, like visiting them after they left shelter for case management after services. So it just got to be a lot. I mean, it was just really hard to see some of these situations, and good for the people that can do that work, because it has to be there. I just couldn't do it, and I'm glad I chose that when I found out I was pregnant, because I would have been too stressed. Now that I am a mom, and even though she's only 2 months old, I mean, I was laughing because today I painted my nails, and it was the first time I painted my nails since like probably my second trimester or something, because I got so swollen and over the summer. I didn't want to, and then once I had her, I was like, I don't have time for this. And today she finally napped for long enough in the middle of the day for me to paint my toes and my nails, and I'm like, this is self-care. Like, you can do it in such small ways. I'm like, but this is amazing, and I felt really good after. So I think that realizing that and then seeing like the things these women were going through, I'm like, just small things could help them. So I did start to plan activities when I was there to do that, but it's now come to a broader scheme where now I'm not at that position. So I ended up at Child Focus during my pregnancy as a parent educator. And so I kind of took that role to the next level. I didn't want to tell these parents what to do when I was their case manager. I just wanted to help them with what they needed at that time. And then I became a parent educator, where literally my job is to go into these homes with children that either have, any type of, not necessarily, I don't like calling it a disorder, but it's a mental health issue. So that could be anything ranging from trauma as a child or trauma as a baby, all the way to like bipolar disorder, or sometimes like an eating disorder, or just different things they might have going on, and helping the parent them in a better way based off of their diagnosis, basically. So a lot of these parents, if you have a child with ADHD, get really frustrated really quick, because they want to ask you a lot of questions, and if you're dealing with your own stuff, whether that's just that day or from years that you're carrying, it's especially hard to then help your child and deal with them. So now I'm gonna have my baby. I have decided I don't want to go back to child focus because part of my own self-care, I'm realizing, like tonight I'm away from her and it's great. I love being here, but I'm excited to go home to her, and I don't think I could do that 8 hours a day. So I think for my own peace of mind and my own personal choice, which nothing against working moms, it's great if you can do it. I know people have to do it. I'm still technically working too. I'm just not working there. So I'm going to serve, and then I'm going to really focus on this blog because I have found that all of my experience in these jobs have led up to a point where I do want to share some of it with people. I think I can do that through a blog, but I don't just want to share my stories necessarily about people. I'd rather do it in the way that I think could help the situations I've been a part of. And that is definitely through self-care. So that might sound, very broad, or it might sound like, oh, that's silly. Of course moms want self-care, but when are they going to do it? But it's not just moms, it's dads, it's anybody who's taking care of you, dealing with your dogs, like literally people who do self-care in general. I'm just personally going to focus on motherhood because I have seen it affect mothers that I know in my personal life, my professional life, coworkers, and also a lot of these people in the past. I heard it from the kids in the schools and how they felt about it, and I also talked to these parents. And I would like to come up with different ways that I can share it with people. So for instance, I laughed about doing my nails, but literally maybe some days you just need to go take a bath. If you are really, really, really struggling with mental health issues, you think, and you don't know, I would so encourage parents, part of self-care, go talk to a therapist. If you have time, schedule that appointment when your kid's at school, or even if you have a newborn like I do, ask your mom or somebody to babysit, or a friend. I know you and I are such good friends, we would absolutely do that for each other. Just be honest and vulnerable with some of the people in your life and say, hey, I just need a minute, can you come over so I can take a shower? Can you come over so I can go to this appointment by myself? And that's all self-care. It's just we don't talk about it as much as it needs to be. Unfortunately, we now live in a society where, it's everybody has their own opinion, but they expect mothers especially to do it all. They expect you to be able to work and also be this great mom and make sure that on top of it you're following whatever the new restriction is that they're saying, whether that's with sleeping or eating or any of it. They want you to do all of it at once, and it's very stressful, and you feel the need to do all of it. And then when life hits you, whether that's in the women's cases I worked with, bad relationships, you're still a human. You have relationships, whether that's with the child's father or not. You have relationships going on that can affect your parenting. So I want not only moms to be able to, hey, here's a blog about taking a bath and a new recipe you could do, which will be sometimes, but I also want to write things about how to take care of the fact that you're dealing with your own stress, what you can do to deal with that, and manage it in a way that you aren't affecting your parenting negatively. Because these kids don't deserve, the anger you have based off the people that you dealt with at work that day, or somebody's conversation they had with you over text that your kids literally don't know anything about, but then you're taking it out on them. Any of it. I just think that it can be dealt with by you dealing with it first, and something that it's kind of a saying, but it's more of an idea of kind of where I got my idea for my blog, is that you can't expect a flower to grow if you're watering it with a watering can that has a hole in the bottom of it. So not to say all mothers are completely empty then, and not to say you don't do a good job raising your kids regardless of your stressful situation. Right. You definitely have to face those things. I give credit to parents that can do that because everybody's struggling with something. But it's also so important that you make sure you fill yourself back up, you take care of yourself so that you can better take care of your children. I think it's necessary because they say, you can just, everything's about your family now, you don't need any time for yourself, but make sure you're not stressed. Well, that's not how that works.
Right.
You can't just do that. You have to do things and find things you like. So even if, I currently picked a book, I might only read 5 pages of it a day, or not even on some days. But when I get a few minutes, it's good to just read a book, whether it's her next to me or in my lap sleeping, but just be able to take some time. I think meditation's important, which is something else I'm going to talk about in my blog. I think trying to start your day, and I know never every day is not ideal. You might wake up one day and you have to do way too much stuff. You're like, I don't have time to do 10 minutes that morning. I'm getting the kids ready, I'm going to work. Just at some point taking time and just 5 minutes, whatever, listen to something that relaxes you so that you can be a better parent. So that's going to be everything coming to my blog. I know it's kind of a lot. It's kind of a lot of ideas scattered right now. But definitely I'm hoping to have it up and running by or before Christmas this year. So that'll be before the new year. And it's at Mama Meg's Memos. So I really hope that you all can follow it. And then the bio will have the link to my blog actually in it, but I'll still make some posts on my Instagram too. So you can see kind of what I'm talking about in different ways that you can approach mindful motherhood and practicing that. So
I'm excited for you because I feel like this is such a good thing for you, and I like the fact that you're not gonna go back to work, because I feel like you got your jewelry and stuff on the side too. So you serve and you also make your own jewelry. Do you have a Instagram for the jewelry?
I actually don't right now, but if I'm starting, I have a name and I am selling it in one store, Made New in Old Milford. So it's called Mother Earth's Gift Source, because my name is Meg, so it's Meg's, and I have it written down. So I think definitely something I want to start when I'm doing the blog. If not, I'd like to do them simultaneously, but since I have so many really fresh ideas for this blog, like I want to do that first, I think. And then as I'm doing it, I want to create the actual web page similar to my blog. I'll have a web page separate for the jewelry, and I'm hoping to be able to just attach that. So not necessarily, I don't want to use my blog that's for helping parents and talking to them necessarily for like my other business that way, just because I need to sell my jewelry there. But definitely if they want to see how I practice self-care, one of them is jewelry, so that's always relaxed me. So that's one of my biggest ways that I practice it, and definitely I've been working on some things for the holidays with it. It's just nice, it's for me. So it'd be nice to have that attached so that they can look at what my self-care looks like, because it's my products that turn out when I'm stressed out and I make a necklace.
And that's everything. And I know you've always been big on like self-care anyways, really. Even before
definitely.
So that's nice that you're doing this, because I feel like you have a lot of experience, and also you put a lot of people ahead of you. Like that's what your job is to put other people first and to try to help them fix their problems and stuff. So this is a much less stressful type of way of being able to help put other people's needs and stuff first.
Absolutely, which I'm most excited about, because at first it felt like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be helping people anymore on a day-to-day basis. And I said that in front of my mom, and she's like, well, first off, you're a mom. So you're going to be helping Emmy every single day actually when you're home, and it's huge, because I've had discussions with her and just many people in my life how, I mean, even stay-at-home moms absolutely still get credit, because one, you're still working. You're working your household in a way that people who aren't having the privilege to stay home and do, they don't understand necessarily, because you're there for everything, you know? So that's part of why I want to do this, is I want to be there for every part of her brain fully developing in the first year. And I think that definitely this is a way that I can still help people, even besides just my daughter. I'll still help her, but I'll also be helping a lot of other parents, hopefully. And definitely still probably actually helping more people than I was doing, which sounds weird, like I try to think about, but I think it's the internet. I know, the internet's crazy now. Even though I was in all those school districts, I'm like, I feel like I'll be helping even more people, because if it gets to the point I want it to, it'll be just a really well-known resource for moms especially to go to. Everything from during pregnancy, because like I'm gonna have food preps that I did that really still are saving me in these first 2 months. So doing that all the way through having your young kids, because they call it the 4th trimester, and I know why, because that first 3 months after birth is craziness. Like you thought pregnancy was hard, and then it's just like wham, nope, you were sleeping in before, you're not now. Really, it's so different. So I want to follow all of the stages of parenting. You know, beforehand, because I would tell you there's self-care you can do during pregnancy that you can't do now that you have a kid. So I could go get my pedicure done or sleep for 8 hours if I was off one day or just on Sunday. Those are things that don't happen now. I mean, I love my baby sling, but I don't feel comfortable yet to take her to get a pedicure. I feel like that wouldn't be as relaxing as the whole purpose of them before. So I think there's definitely ways I can hit every stage of parenting for moms and different ways you can practice self-care during those.
Right.
Because also during pregnancy, you're so scared of birth, at least I was, and that was like a huge thing I needed for self-care. Is I would talk to other moms, but then if they would start to tell me horrific stories, I'm like, just kidding. I don't want to hear really good stories about how that went, because I think that'll help. So definitely talking to people, whether that's even ended up in a therapy situation, or I went to a chiropractor because that was like physical in a way for therapy for me, to just be like, yeah, my body can do this. So I think definitely there's different self-care points, and then even more that I'm going to be learning about, which is so exciting that I'm starting this blog kind of at the start of her life, which I've also been thinking about, because absolutely I'm going to want info from other moms too, to feed back on like, well, you don't have a 5-year-old yet, Meg, let me tell you how that's going to
Right.
go.
Right.
So I think that'll be really nice to connect with other moms, but also it'll be really, really cool, I think, for Emmy in the future, but also myself, just to track like where I was at through this, because I would like to continue this vlog. And it'll be different, you know, I'm sure when she's 3 and then I'm dealing with a toddler. And then eventually if I have more children, be like, oh, I thought this was really difficult. Shout out to all the moms that have a bunch of kids, because by the way, this was way harder than I thought.
Right.
So it'll be nice to see how I am continuing myself to practice self-care, because I think it's huge that you need to practice what you're preaching. And some days I'm like, wow, how am I gonna have a vlog that's about self-care and I've done nothing for myself today?
Right.
And then I take a minute usually when I have those moments. It's great that I have them, because then instead of doubting like I shouldn't be doing this, I say, okay, so even if I just like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna go take a hot shower and I'm gonna ask somebody to hold her, and I'm gonna use that as my moments to think and just have self-care for a second and breathe.
Yeah.
So it definitely has to be an everyday practice, and hopefully my blog can do that for moms.
Yeah.
And meet them where they're at, and just be another resource and outlet that even if you can't get out of the house that day, and your self-care is going to be reading my blog to get an idea for something, absolutely do that. Please do. And I love cooking, and I'll have recipes too of just, you know, prep meals I did while I was still pregnant before now, and things I can do now in less than 5 minutes that I never thought possible before. And I can still eat it and be on my way to take care of the baby. So
yeah,
definitely hope it's a resource to moms.
I'm really excited about that. I really want them to hear about your dream about having Emmy, because I feel like a lot of people experience stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I think it's just so cool.
So, so it's really, definitely this start to being a parent was really interesting for me. So my dad, actually last Monday would have been 4 years since my dad passed away. And I was close with him, maybe not as close as I am with my mom, but definitely he was a huge role in my life. And since he passed, you know, I don't really dream about him a lot. And I think I'm a spiritual person. I believe, you know, you can believe whatever you want, but I think he doesn't come to me because he knows I get upset every time. So I usually, or I was at least, I'm not as now, which I can talk about and why. But basically, I had a dream about a month-ish before I got pregnant. And it was not a planned pregnancy, so I was definitely not thinking anything when I had this dream that it was myself necessarily. But he came to me in a dream. We were at a hospital, there was other family members around, and I was getting in a van to leave, and my dad gave me a hug and handed me a baby. And I was thinking, I didn't in the whole dream think that I was the patient at all in the hospital, so that really was confusing me. That's why at first I was like, whatever, that's not for me. That was not me in the hospital. I think we were visiting somebody even. But I was leaving the hospital and he handed me this baby. And I couldn't tell if it was a boy or girl at the time, but I was just like, that is weird. When I woke up, I'm like, yeah, okay. This is definitely a different dream. You know, I've dreamt about it 2 or 3 times at that point in years. So I'm like, that's a very symbolic dream, or very literal, which I found out 4 to 6 weeks later. I was like, oh, it's just a weird symbol, handing you life, you're gonna have all this great. No, he literally kind of was handing me a life. So I ended up pregnant, very shortly after. And I kind of kept it to myself at first about the thing with my dad, because I'm like, people are gonna think I'm crazy. I'm like, but literally, my dad handed me a baby, and then I got pregnant, and I had this baby. And she definitely now, there's things that remind me about her, of my dad. And I think that she definitely got to meet him first, which is cool, but it was really weird. My mom, she goes, if he comes to you in your dreams again, don't be taking any more babies from him. You tell him to turn around, and I'm like, right? I'm gonna be like that. Go get me a car, hand me a new car. Right. Hand me a big house. Hand me a check, we're at work together. I'm like, that'd be cool too. Hand me something else that really works. If I have a dream that he's handing me a boat or house or money, I'm gonna be really thinking it's gonna happen probably. Right. I have this perfect baby now, and I'm like, you picked out this perfect baby and gave it to me. what else can you pick out? And just, there you go.
I love that.
But it definitely resembles that he's part of her, which is
Yeah.
cool, and definitely that he's still there for me too, because I think that my own self-care was in a bad place after he passed, you know, and just how I was being as a person to others, as well as just taking care of myself, it wasn't great. And I think that, you know, she's the best thing that's ever happened in my life, and the fact that he got to pick her out after he left and hand her to me was definitely a huge blessing of just like, here you go. Even though it feels like not self-care because you're taking care of this human, she definitely has made me a happier person, for sure. And this past year, even on his anniversary, was not as hard as other years. And at first I was like, that's so weird, like it's a good thing, but I'm like, is it really time? Like usually I thought that was kind of crap when people said time will heal all wounds. I'm like, maybe not, like that's kind of hard. But it was because of her, I think, for sure. Because I was just like, well, it is hard, but I have this cute little baby, I love her so much. So definitely was cool to feel the difference in that. And yeah, I appreciate you asking about it, because all of it connects to reasons why I think this is definitely the right path to be on for myself. I think this blog is meant to be, and just everything leading up to it is going to help be so much more powerful. It explains why things happen to me in my life, as well as just jobs that I had and experience that I never thought ever in a million years I would have.
Right.
No, nobody in my family would have been like, oh, Meg became a sex ed teacher after college. That's exactly what she did. And that's exactly what all of our friends said to me from high school when I came back. They're like, you're a sex ed teacher? Okay. And they're like, why do you want to work in a women's shelter? Oh my God, why would you want to go parent parents when you're not even a parent yourself? I'm like, funny story, leading up to all this, I became a parent, and now I understand it from a whole new angle. So I'd like to share my experiences as I continue to learn it, because I'm very, very new to this mom thing. But I like it so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me excited. I love her so much.
Yeah, she loves you too. Our Aunt Lolo.
Auntie Lolo.
Yeah.
The kids love it when I say Auntie Lolo loves you.
Oh, I like that.
They always
That's cute.
smile so big, and it just makes my heart. And Tasha's little girl, Olivia, she's to the age now where she FaceTimes me. And so I'll get like a FaceTime in the morning, or I'll get like a message on Snapchat, and I'm like,
oh my God,
stop.
that's so cute.
It's too cute.
Yes.
It makes me so happy.
I'm excited for her to grow.
So I love having so many strong women in my life who are really good moms.
Yes.
And moms that I don't feel like I would need to send you to them to parent, you know?
Yeah,
I feel like I have really
exactly.
good women.
You're not
that
like,
makes
I
me
have
really
somebody you should
happy.
talk to. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're such a strong woman and example for all of our kids, and just, you've always been for us as a friend, like seriously. So, I mean, in this, they're gonna be able to watch their aunt, which I know some of your other friends' kids have done. It's probably so cute. I saw the picture of Zeke watching it, and you're like, I'm such a proud aunt. My nephew's watching me, and this positive living, and you're like, I get to literally be that in their lives. But then, yeah, maybe instead of watching like PJ Masks, they'll be like, oh, can I watch Auntie Lola? I love her. I'll be like, yeah, absolutely. I'll put you on any day over some cartoon. Yeah, this is a great show.
Oh, that makes me so happy. I love it so much. Well, I just appreciate you coming here to talk with us about this. I want you guys to know, like, Meg is a resource that you guys can reach out to. If you guys want to talk about parenting or even, like, sexual education with your kids. Like,
I still do talk to kids on a daily basis. You'd be surprised at my serving job. I mean, all the teenage kids reach out to me like, Meg, by the way, I want you to do this. My younger sisters do, they're friends, so reach out to me for any of that. I'd be more than happy to help.
Great resource.
Any way that I can. Yes.
And, or if you have questions about your kids and parenting with your kids, or if you're borderline about to have the state step in, like, come to Meg and talk to her about what you can do and where to go from here, because I know that parenting isn't easy. I'm not a parent yet, so I don't really, you know what I mean? I don't work with parents or anything like that, but I know that it's a mess right now. Like, it's just parenting is hard, but it's a mess right now. You know, we have a lot of kids that are really bad, and kids are getting pregnant earlier and earlier, and this all starts and stems from the household, you know. And so I think that's really important. And I think the other thing that I just appreciate you talking so much about is the self-care, because mental health is a huge thing, and like one step in healing that is being able to take care of yourself and step away for a second, even if it's for your bath, your nails, whatever.
Yes.
A beer.
Yeah, literally.
Like, but I don't know, showing yourself grace is the biggest thing.
Yeah.
You have to, you know, show yourself grace and love because that's so important in being a parent. And I feel like, you know, a lot of times when I put it in my head, like, if my kid was in this position, I wouldn't want them stressing out so bad. So what am I going to do right now in my mind and in my life to change things so that way I can give my children sound advice for what, like, you should really do, you know, in stressful situations. I feel like that's part of my whole positive living thing, and like just trying to make sure I keep my household clean and stuff, so that way one day when I have kids, it's not as hard to not be.
It's already in your routine.
Yeah, it's already part of your routine, and like, you know, just writing, journaling, it's already a part of your routine, and it might get hard with children, but starting before you have kids too, like it's really important to start before you have kids, and that's what path I'm on, is starting
years
before.
of wonderful self-care before you have kids, because then it's harder. It's absolutely harder to implement if you've never done it before.
Right, so you know, that's a big thing.
I think it's great. I think this blog for you, well, this is more like a video blog, I know, but I think that this for you is going to be huge in your own self-care, because you get to share and help people the same way that people like us who like to help people, we get to reach more people. Once, it's amazing, but also I think that it's great for you to share this message and be a part of people's, like, even if you can be what they watch that day. Like, okay, my 5 minutes, I'm gonna watch hers and, you know, list 10 things I'm grateful for after I listen to what she just told me about. That's amazing that you get to be a part of that. So absolutely, I think this is gonna be awesome, and thank you for letting me come on here, because it gets to help me launch everything and just talk and see you.
And hold you accountable to get this.
Yes, I know, absolutely. This is definitely more motivation than I needed. I mean, yes, I have a newborn, but I can absolutely still get this up and moving.
Yes.
I can do that, so
yay.
I'm excited for it.
Well, I love you so much.
Love you too.
I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
We're about to end this with some peace.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Bye.